Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together. All right, real quick before we get started on the show, I'm just going to talk about Treeline Academy. You've heard me say it. I can't even tell you how many times. Mark Livesey is treelineacademy.net. That's treelineacademy.net. Sign up. Use the promo code PC2020. Save yourself $20. Can't say it enough. It's awesome, amazing, most comprehensive e-scouting course out there. Check it out for yourself. Sign up. Use promo code PC2020. And now let's get to the show. Okay, so I'm sitting here and I have Yana Robertson on, and we're going to talk all kinds of cool stuff and get to know her. So, Yana, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right. Thank you very much, Luke. And thanks for having me here. So stoked to be here. So introducing myself, I see myself, I guess, as a wild woman, outdoor, traditional bow hunter, graphic designer, inspiration nomad, I guess.
That's cool. That's cool. So let's talk a little bit, because you probably had a pretty interesting childhood growing up around your dad and your brother and the whole family pretty much, right? I mean, it was a family operation doing what you guys did, and kind of tell people about that.
Okay, sure. Robertson Stick Bow is the name of my family's business, and I was pretty much born with a traditional bow in my hand. My dad has been making, traditional archery equipments for 40 plus odd years. He was, one of the founding dudes of the Traditional Bow Hunters of Montana, Professional Bow Hunter Society. So I know a lot about trad archery, trad bow hunting, and that's what I've grown up doing. And that's how I guess, connect with the woods and pretty much feed myself.
That's awesome.
By means of meat, I guess. So
that is so cool. So I'm kind of curious. So like, what do you think would have happened when you were a kid if you sat down at the dinner table and said, "Dad, I think I want to shoot a compound bow"?
Oh my gosh. Oh no. I would be disowned. Oh, so disowned. That's just what I can't do. I don't want to imagine it. It'll put me in a bad place.
No, I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome that like you guys just the whole traditional lifestyle and making the bows. And I mean, so like, what was your role when you were doing all that kind of stuff for the family business?
Yeah, all right. Well, my very first little job ever, I guess, was cleaning the shop, dusting it, using a broom and rocking out with my brother as we cleaned the shop after Dad had a hard day's work. And then that evolved to making the leather bow wraps, the handles that go around longbows. I would cut those and help sew those, and my dad would pay me for that, and that's how I'd get learn how money works and, how to earn what I wanted in life, right? If I wanted chapstick or whatever little thing I wanted at that time, right? And then that evolved to then making bowstrings, and then wow, that just evolved even more. So at one time I was gluing up bows. I was the glue up girl. But turns out I'm really messy, so I didn't do a very good job at it. So I ended up not hanging out in the shop as I got older. I liked the woods and stuff. I just kind of took a different turn in life, I guess. Maybe boys happened and stuff, so I didn't spend as much time in the shop then. And then college started, and I started understanding more about the world and how it worked, and wanted to know more about my lifestyle I came from again, and my family's livelihood. So I reconnected with that, and now I just love bow making. I'm not into power tools, but I love the primitive bow making style. I love making arrows, and I love watching my dad and brother make bows. I'm just, not into actually making them myself, but I will hunt with them all day long. So
So let me ask you this: when you were cutting the leather and putting the leather for the handles on, or the grip,
Yep.
were you like forming them, like getting it wet and forming it, or how are you going about that?
No, not at that time. At that time, like the leather's already done, I guess. It's like commercial grade leather, I guess you could say. And there's just a form I'd have to put over it and like trace it with a pen and trace little holes and then punch them out with a special leather, hole puncher.
Leather
And
punch, yeah.
yep, yep. And
Yep.
then, but it's like a hand one. I like an owl, I guess you would call it. I'm really bad at specific terminology, so you'll
AWL.
have to bear
All.
with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then sew them up kind of using a fake sinew,
Yep.
since
Artificial sinew.
real,
Yeah.
yeah, our real sinew is like super expensive and kind of hard to, make in. Well, I shouldn't say hard. It's just time consuming to make for
Right.
leather projects. So yeah,
No,
so
it's pretty
that's
cool
what I
because
do.
I was just kind of curious because I started down a traditional, like I didn't start on the traditional path, but I gravitated towards that, and I actually did shoot traditional for a little while, but then
Okay.
I kind of got out of it just because I feel bad. I don't have enough time to actually practice it. And a
Right,
compound
right.
bow's, let's just face it, it's easier.
They're different beasts, that's for
hmm
sure.
But
um
yeah,
yeah, it takes some commitment, but it's a lot like riding a bike. Your muscles remember it after you do it for so long. So, that's something to keep in mind.
yeah. But the whole
But
traditional path led me
yeah,
down a whole nother path of creating my own things. So it started out, I was like, man,
good.
I want an arm guard. And I was like, I'm
Good.
not gonna buy one. I'll make one.
You're gonna
So I
make one.
took
Oh, that's so
antler and I
cool.
cut buttons and I soaked it in not lacquer but like a resin, so it actually epoxy
Okay.
resin, so it actually filled the pores of the bone. And
Yeah.
then took the artificial sinew and sewed it up, and I took a leather burner, a wood burner, and etched my own design into it, and just kind of ran with it. And I was like, okay, now what am I going to build? Like I need more things, right? So
Yes.
then it was like, okay, let's build a quiver. Well, I really like the safari tough quivers,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
didn't want to buy one of those, so I made my own with the same cutout in the side and the strap, so it goes on my back, and the cover for my feathers and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And it just kind of took me down a whole nother path. And then I was like, well, I got this knife. I'd like to put this knife with a nice bone handle on my quiver. Well, I
Oh
guess I'll have
my
to learn how to make a sheath. So it was like the whole trad archery thing turned into a whole nother thing. And now, like, if I need a holster or something, I can make myself a
you
holster
could
for a gun or do
that.
whatever. And I've done all kinds of cool stuff like that. Like I made myself for my 357 pistol for deer hunting. I actually made myself like a bandolier almost to hold it up on my chest. Pretty cool stuff.
Okay.
So it just led me down a
Okay.
road that was like,
Yes.
it opened up my mind
Right.
to so many things. And I was like, that's awesome. So
Yes. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's
So
badass.
what kind of creativity has it done for you? I mean, are you
Oh
shooting
my
modern
gosh.
arrows or are you still shooting wood?
Um, well, tricky question there, especially depending who's listening right now. Uh, technically, I shoot carbon arrows, and the reason I shoot carbon arrows is because I switch my bows all the time. Because I practice and teach other people archery, I often shoot the same bow that they're shooting with or similar bow. And so having a consistent arrow weight for me is important. Versus if I could have like the perfect world, I would be hunting 100% with wood arrows. There's a romance with wood arrows. It's even harder to hunt with those, and they have to match your bow perfectly. So, say I picked a bow early on in the year and I practiced with that one, then I could definitely commit to hunting with wood arrows. But since I switch around so much, I have to stay with my carbon arrows.
So
So,
let's get to
yeah.
the next one. Steel or stone?
Okay.
Steel or stone point?
Oh gosh. All right. I'm gonna plead the fifth on this one. In trouble. Yeah, I'm moving on.
So
Stone's badass. I
let's
just gotta
go to
go
the
with that.
yeah, stone is cool. But what if
Yeah.
it's a steel point that you made? I actually work with a guy that
Yeah.
makes
Oh
his
my
own
gosh.
bows. And
Okay.
so I've asked him, I'm like, well, what do you use for arrows? Well, they're kind of wood. I'm like, what do you mean wood? He's like, well, there's these trees. I don't even know what they're called, but I go and find some really straight branches and I cut them off and I taper them down because I already have a taper on them. I just kind of straighten them. I
Whoa.
and I use those. I'm like, what? he's like, yeah, and
That's
then I cut a
cool.
notch in it, a V notch, and then I cut a little bit further into it and I tie it up with sinew and it tightens it up and it makes a perfect knocking
Right,
point. I'm like, what?
right,
So I have
right.
no idea what kind of, but so he made, I was like, well, what kind of points do you? He goes, oh, well, I tried napping for a while. And he goes,
Mhm.
a piece of glass can turn out a pretty good arrowhead. He goes, but I just didn't have the time I wanted to do that. He goes, so I made my own out of steel. I was like,
Oh
really?
my gosh,
Yeah.
cool. Wow. He's an out of the box thinker, that's for
Oh yeah.
sure.
This guy
Good for
makes
him.
his own like cedar strip canoes. He has all kinds of projects he does all the time.
Oh,
He's pretty
cool.
interesting dude. But
I like
so what
humans like that.
do you flint nap?
I don't. My dad does. I don't. I'm anyone who knows me knows I'm kind of knife scary at times. I actually have slit my finger and had nerve surgery. So after I kill a critter, it's really important I calm my emotions down before I go anywhere near the field dressing
Well, that makes
process.
sense. That makes sense.
So,
I actually lost
yeah.
nerve feeling in my hand too.
Ah.
I used to make knives. and and when I was making the knives, I clamped it down on the table and I went with the drill press to drill in the tang the of the
Uh-huh.
handle. And
Yeah.
when I did that, I caught on a burr. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try from the other side. So I flipped it over, and when I clamped it, I didn't like clamp it good, and I actually clamped on. There's like ridges on the bottom of the table of the drill press, and I clamped onto that instead of the flat surface. So when it hit and it hit that burr again, it ripped it right out of the clamp and came around like a helicopter. And I'm
Oh,
ambidextrous, so like most of the time I do things left-handed, other than like shoot a bow and certain things and shoot
right.
guns and rifles. So I reached up
Okay.
with my left hand to turn it off, and in doing so, let go of the drill press handle at the same time, and it came around like a helicopter and cut up 3 fingers really bad.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh.
So I'm familiar with the nerve damage.
All
Like
right.
my fingertip
Yeah.
just now, like within the past like 2 years, has feeling in it. So I went
Right.
like
Yep.
6, 7 years
Wow.
without feeling.
Okay. All right. I feel you. I know what you mean. Literally. I know.
It makes for cool
Oh
parlor tricks,
man.
though, right? You could hold the lighter under it. Nothing.
Yeah. Like I gotta feel this. Just.
Yeah. So
That's right.
we're not going to answer the question about the points then, huh? Okay, that's
No,
fine.
we're not. We're gonna move on that
Okay.
one.
So what would Dad prefer you to hunt with?
um. Actually, let's say I have the ultimate goal myself to have as primitive possible equipment someday, but at this point I'm also trying to hunt harder animals. So it's kind of it's so tricky. So dad of course would probably wish I'd go as primitive as possible. But at the same time I also need to be more lethal and you know,
Right.
I'm a chick. I have to get closer to the critters. So
That's not true.
um
I don't believe that.
yeah, okay, you're probably right, but when you shoot a lighter poundage bow, you do gotta sometimes get a
Right.
little
Yeah.
closer. But yeah, it's a all right. Moving on again.
So I recently interviewed a guy and I asked him like, what's your kind of thing and he said he wants to like how there's the triple crown, whatever that is. He wants to
Yep. Yeah.
do his own triple crown and
Okay.
it's shoot a turkey, take the
Okay.
feathers from the wing,
Got.
cut
All
his
right.
own feathers, fletching,
Splice them. Okay.
splice them, do all that, put them on
Yeah.
a trad bow, shoot a deer with that trad arrow he made with the turkey feathers, and then take the
Okay.
deer hair and tie a fly and fly fish catch a fly. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
that's
okay,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, challenge accepted.
Well, I
That's
don't know if I
fun.
can do that, but we'll see.
Oh man, that would be fun. Okay, cool.
So, do you fly fish much?
I'm learning to fly fish. Yes.
Me too.
My friend, my roommate is a fly fish, or before obviously my fiance I live with now was a fly fishing guide, and so she's been so awesome to teach me.
That's cool. Yeah, I
Yes.
just went out on my first fly fishing excursion.
Oh yes. And how did that go for you?
It was awesome. Caught a ton of fish. I didn't.
Yeah.
I guess you're supposed to, paint flat ceilings, and I was painting igloos the whole time and trying to
Okay.
shadow cast like I'm in the river runs through it. But other than that, it was cool and it was
Yeah, you
fun.
know you.
And even though the guide was looking at me like, oh boy, this guy. But I caught a bunch of fish, so
Hey, that's what.
whatever.
Hey, you. You had fun. You got the fish. Goal
I did
complete.
a lot. There was a lot of like Indiana Jones whipping the line, like you could hear it crack. Like I didn't let it go far enough out and back, you know. But
All
whatever.
right.
They were talking
Whatever.
crap to me and telling me, "Oh, hey, listen, quit whipping it." But you know what? I was still catching fish, so that's all that
You were
matters.
catching. That's all that matters. If we were hungry, we would have made it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So we were fishing for smallmouth too, so that was fun.
Oh, ooh, yeah. Oh, that would be fun. Super fun. Ooh,
Um, so you live kind of an interesting life as far
yeah.
as like how you live. And
True.
you want to like, or you know what? Let's rewind that. So
Okay.
you met your husband, you had a
Fiance, but yes.
fiance, okay, soon to be husband, we'll say.
Soon to be husband.
Um,
Yeah.
and there was a pretty cool proposal going on there.
Yes,
You want to talk
that's
about that?
true.
Start from the beginning
Okay.
and go for it.
Sure. All right. Well, Cody, my fiance, betrothed, and I met. Actually, we met off the internet. I was working at Onyx Map as a creative director and was super busy, and he was working as an asphalt manager, super busy, and we found each other off of like I can't remember, like Plenty of Fish or something like that, and met. And it's like it was weird because like I just instantly kind of knew like he was a pretty great guy and I wanted to hang out with him some more. And as time evolved, we got to know each other better. Obviously, our relationship evolved. He switched his job and he moved in with me, and he told me he had this dream that he wants to have an off-grid life and an off-grid homestead. And I thought, all right, like let's do it. So we were living with my friend Kelly at the time, transitioning, trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And he has some property here out in Alberton, Montana, and so we made the commitment. And so 3 years ago, I quit my fancy tech job, started a business, and we moved out off the grid. And we've been building our little sanctuary, awesome place ever since.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
how about
Oh, the
the
proposal.
proposal
I
part?
totally got
Yeah, no, it's
distracted
cool.
by the
It's cool because we're gonna.
proposal.
I want to learn more about the homestead thing. It's really cool,
Okay.
but I want to hear the
All right.
proposal part first.
The proposal. All right. So I made up my mind a long time ago. I mean, I didn't ever really want to get married, and it wasn't anything against marriage. It just was um not necessarily something everybody that I appreciated in my life could do. And so I kind of thought that was unfair. And as times have changed and people who, pretty much love each other, anyone can get married, I realized what uh, those commitments are like and how important they are. And knowing that Cody is just this amazing guy and just, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to have him in my life. And he has had me grow so in such great positive ways. I just, um, knowing he was going to spend the rest of our lives together anyway, he knew flat out that I never ever wanted to get married. So it was just out of the question. Don't even think about proposing. The answer will be no, buddy. Um, I flipped the switch. I'm just so crazy about it. Something happened to me, and I called up a buddy of mine, and I asked him, or actually I just messaged him on Instagram. He makes beautiful arrows. I asked him if he would make me a special set of arrows that asks the question of "Will you marry me?" And he said he could do it, and I was so excited. And so then I went. I told my parents and my brother, who was home from Alaska at the time, that I was going to propose to Cody. And of course, everybody cried because they all knew like I never wanted to get married, yada, yada. And so my dad helped build a bow to help me ask the question. And so the finishing touch on the bow was to name it. And so I named it Say Yes. So on the arrows, it says, "Will you marry me?" And on the bow, it says, "Say yes." So I kind of set him up for the answer, but uh, I booked this cabin actually in the Forest Service, and then COVID happened, and all that stuff got canceled. And I was freaking out and stressing out because I've been working on how am I going to propose to him, and I want it to be special and have these bows and arrows and and everything. And I actually was able to find an outfitter that was willing to help me out there. And so I wasn't able to propose at like the exact place I wanted to, but I was able to pop the question and I got it on video. And he said yes. Actually, he said yes 3 times, and I didn't hear him because my heart was beating so loudly. But so yeah, like kudos to all you dudes who pop the question, because I totally understand what a nervous wreck you probably are. And
Yep.
if you're not creative when you do it, then for shame, because your love deserves some creativity.
So my wife, when I first met her, said, "I'm never getting married. I don't want kids. I want to live in the city, blah blah blah." All these things, right? And just recently I asked her, I said, "So how much do you think you've changed and your perspective has changed?" And she's like, "Oh my gosh." And first of all, we live in the country. We live outside outside of town of a very rural town. I mean,
Oh, good.
we're we're rural. And then on top of that, we've got 3 kids, total opposite of everything she's ever said. And my wife and I dated for a while, like 6 years. And
Okay,
then
good.
so she and then so when I asked her to marry me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" And so I still give her crap about that because I'm like, "Why wouldn't you just say yes? You made me so nervous when you said that." And she's like, "I didn't mean it like that." And she's like, "I just meant like, what took you so long? Of course I'm gonna want to marry you." So it was
Oh my
cool,
gosh.
but like, yes, I can understand. It's nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Nerve-wracking, so
And so she
nerve-wracking.
thought I was just, like kneeling over to tie my shoe or something, and I
Oh,
totally
what
wasn't.
a
Yeah.
surprise. Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
So
So
fun.
I still give her crap about it though, but totally like understand the whole like, oh, I'm never gonna marry. Don't like. So for a while there, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna ask her anyway. It doesn't matter. I
Right?
love her.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to. And lesson learned, never say never, I
That's
guess.
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
she didn't want kids, didn't want to. She wanted to live in the city. Here we are in the country, and now she says she wouldn't trade this life for anything in the world. And I may have ruined her because now she could never live in town. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, so, her and I have a lot in common, it sounds like. So good for her. Good, right on. Personal growth. That's what this is all about, right?
yeah.
So, yeah.
So, so then, like, at what point, like, when did you start your own business?
I started my own business pretty much the same time I quit Onyx Maps, and we decided to live off the grid. It was like almost all in like a September, October month. And I was also doing a side gig, which was like a lifelink, a reality TV show plot or pilot, excuse me, up
Oh,
in Wyoming. So it was a crazy time. So, and I mean, that's obviously hunting season. So
you were working
yeah,
on the show or you were on the show?
well, a little bit of both. I was the online social media coordinator, kind of, and then, well, not really, kind of. That was how it went. And then also, um, did part of the. I was on camera a little bit, kind of as the secondary show host. So, yeah, the in the show there was someone who had to leave the competition due to health reasons, and so
Ah,
that they needed 2 people on camera at the time. And so instead of doing like the Facebook lives like I was doing, they threw me in front of the lens, and that's just how that went. And it went fine. And yeah, so
did it
that was
ever
one
air?
project. It's actually a work in progress, but you can see the episode on the Facebook page on Lifelink. It's actually a good hour, and it's pretty fun to watch. And there's 3 competitors, and they're hunting public lands. So
That's
actually,
awesome. That's my
yeah,
favorite thing to
Lifelink.
do.
Yeah, check it out.
So
So,
yeah, yeah, I love the challenge, and I'm publicly challenged, and hence the name of the podcast. So it all, yeah,
right.
heck yeah. So I mean, it was like just like with my podcast and everything. When I had the idea for a while, there was the inception, and then it was like that aha moment. I need to do it, and then the actual putting it together and doing it. What was that like for you, or was it just like, huh, I think I want to do a clothing business?
Um, oh, well, I guess the way that I do or we print the product is pretty cutting edge and it's eco-friendly and people didn't know about it. And I'm a weirdo and I like doing not normal things. And so when I learned about this and got like an actual tip from my coworker who told me like, hey, you'd be actually pretty good at this. I was like, um, that's actually pretty fun. Like I could do that. And so I did a little bit of a dry run while I was still obviously working. I mean, I could just quit my job to take on this awesome dream, right? With the backcountry hunters and anglers, they've been with me through this whole process, which has been so wonderful. They let me make my first little custom design, and during their event, I kind of soft launched it, and it went well. And the data told me everything I needed to know. And as a creative with a technical background, I just put, two and two together. And I mean, who doesn't like leggings? Ooh, ladies love leggings.
That's
Dudes
true.
like to look at ladies in leggings. I
This is
can make
also
hunting,
true.
fishing, and foraging themed leggings and have all the inspiration come from my outdoor experiences. So I built a business on it. And I had so many people tell me I couldn't do it. I mean, I had so many naysayers, and I just am so glad I didn't listen to any of them because
Never listen to the
yeah,
naysayers.
yeah,
Follow your
it was just
dreams.
yeah, totally follow your dreams. And so here I am, and it's happening, and it's exciting, and reaching 5-year goals in 3 years, and trying to figure out what I'm gonna do now. It's fun, and I live off the grid, so I don't always have enough power to do everything I want to do. So it's um it's fun. It's exciting. We were gonna do, or I was gonna get an office in town, and obviously that didn't happen due to COVID. So we put up wall tent as an office for a bit, and sometimes my camper's the office, and now we're actually working on a
So
decent office for me.
you've
So
had
yeah.
though. I mean, you've had like it's not like your collection just started. I mean, because I've seen what because Ty Stubblefield was wearing your leg.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure a women's pair
yeah,
of leggings
yep, for
in
sure.
a competition that he did against somebody in the rendezvous because
Yeah,
it was all virtual.
it's
Stupid,
actually
stupid COVID. But
yeah, stupid COVID.
but yeah, that wasn't the launch of him, was it? I mean, because I've
No,
seen,
no,
yeah, it was
no,
way
I've been.
before that, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I'd been around. That was just this spring, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Because I was
So
gonna
three
say,
years.
I'm pretty sure like a couple years ago, and I hate to admit this, I don't actually
It's
have
okay.
any of your collection,
Well,
but
I mean, I don't expect you to.
well, why
So
not? You've got guy stuff.
yeah, that's actually I do have guy stuff, and
So
that's pretty
yeah, as
new. So
soon as
yeah, how
well,
dare you not have my
it
stuff?
was
So
about a year ago, I think, when you came out with the guy stuff, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
finally
Yep.
some guy stuff because like
Yeah.
Lindsay was wearing your leggings forever, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know,
Hmm.
nothing there for me. And then I saw something. I think it was like you posted something or something about, hey, we got a guys collection now. And I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, like I'm pretty scatterbrained too. Like I'll get on something and start looking at it and doing stuff, and then I'll just get distracted or I'll have to like be pulled away from it, and it seems like I
Right.
never get back to it. And so I hate to admit it. I'm sorry,
Right.
but like three
It.
different times I've had stuff in my cart to buy from your
I
website
got
and
you.
still haven't done it yet. So
So you're one of those abandonment cart rape people.
I am.
I'm
I'm
just
sorry.
teasing.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
it's all good.
so
It's
like
so
my
fun.
favorite, you want to know my favorites of them is
I do.
I
I
bet you
do.
can guess. Try and guess. Let's see if you can guess
Try.
because
Oh, okay. Does it have an elk on it? Like, is the elk one of the elk designs?
actually the primitive press
Oh my. Okay, that makes sense.
because I mean if you look
Cool.
at my
Yeah.
logo and look at the primitive
Yeah.
press
Oh my gosh. I so should have put that together.
because so when I had my logo designed my whole thing was like I want something that's like representative of like primitive like cave drawings or something like that, right?
Right.
Petroglyphs. And so
Right.
that's what like the designer kind of based it off of. And I was like, I kind of want to incorporate like a rifle scope somehow in there. So that's like the circle with
Yeah.
the four lines in it, you know?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
it's subtle on that stuff, but that was my goal is like I want like a rifle scope, but I want like a cave drawing archer type, you know. So
Right.
that's where it all stemmed from. So
That's so cool. Little hybrid. That's so cool.
so the primitive press is one of my
That would
favorites,
make
and
sense.
then If you know me, I like foraging and learning about foraging.
All
So
right.
the
So you like
mushroom
the
collection.
Morel. Yeah, the Morel mushrooms
And
for
then the next one is
sure.
the old growth. And I was trying to, so
Okay.
my whole thing
Okay.
was like, do I get an old growth shirt and morel shorts? So it's like the morels are growing at the bottom of the old growth forest when I wear my outfit. That's how my whole thought
Right.
process was. So,
This is a great research for me. Thank you so much.
so I was like, oh man, I don't know. And I'd sit there and stare at my cart for like an hour and then I get distracted and get pulled away from it because it's just cool and so many choices and you got to make the right choice. So,
That's I understand how can it can be difficult.
yes. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Um,
Right.
but tell everybody about your business and like I'm talking about it like everybody assumes like I assume everybody
Okay.
knows what it is. So
My business is called Pure Venatic, and that is Venatic, and it goes off of the Latin root word of veni, like venison, and that means to hunt. So pretty much means pure hunter. And really, it just is a play off of, going after your pursuits, whether it be hunting, fishing, foraging, exploring, adventure, right? And so I take designs that I make, I guess. Well, of course I make them. There's no guess in them. I feel like I get help from nature. It's not like I just come up with how awesome nature looks, right? So it's a collaborative process. So nature helps me come up with some designs. They go through my brain and through my computer, and I come up with a print file. And then that print file, it looks like, you know, for example, Morel mushroom, and we print it on leggings or shorts or whatever product you decide to order up at the time. And it's unique because we make it generally right when you order it. It saves on a bunch of one costs. So then the product doesn't have to cost nearly as much as it could cost, because believe me, it could be crazy. And then also, it uses a lot less water. It's water-based ink, even though all the artwork stays. It's just this really awesome technology that I'm still having a hard time even explaining, obviously. And it goes right on this white fabric. We print it like out of a printer practically, if you can envision that, and then cut it and sew it and send it off to the people that order it. So it's neat in the way that I can come up with a design and, if push comes to shove, have it done within, 2 weeks, and we're rocking and rolling. And I don't know, it's just really cool.
it
I don't know
seems
what
it
else to
seems
say
more
about
efficient
it.
than having to order a bunch of reams of different I think
Right.
that's what they call it, right?
Yep,
Reams of
yep,
fabric
right.
and have to have X amount of designs for each ream of fabric and then different materials
Exactly.
for leggings and different materials for shorts and shirts. It makes
Right.
sense, right? I mean,
Makes sense. Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to produce so many at a certain time to make a certain cost. So it actually ends up costing less to create the product, or on the retail end, if that makes sense. So similar leggings are, really awesome art. Say you have to print them all at one time, it might actually cost more. This sounds so backwards, but it might actually cost more in the long run, because it's just like not mass produced. So you don't have to mark it up, say, to like sell it and get your cost.
right,
I'm
right.
gonna lose. And so it's just, you can just get your cost, and you don't have to, you can, I don't know, everyone can enjoy the art more, I guess. You don't
Yes.
have to
No, and I always thought they were cool, but it was just
fix.
at the time it was like just leggings and I was like, "Well, that's cool, but
Right.
what's that got to do with me?"
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's such a, oh my gosh. And as the business person, it's so hard to know, like, I could make legging designs all day long and just, oh my gosh, I would love it. But you fellas, you're a different breed sometimes. Like, your legs are different. So,
Yeah, I don't
so
want
to make a
leggings, really.
design, yeah, look good. It's just not the same.
Most of us don't
So,
have butts. It just falls flat off right there. Yeah.
right.
So,
So,
unless
um,
unless
yeah.
there's those guys that work out all the time and do squats and I got to admit I'm not one of them.
That's okay. No one's
Yeah,
judging, really.
yeah. So
Maybe Lindsay,
I don't have
but
that
no
the
judging.
backside like some dudes do. My wife tells me I
That's
have no
okay.
butt.
That's right. We all have different bodies, and they're all awesome.
So, what else? I mean, like, what else you got going with it? So you started out with leggings. Now you've got
Start out with leggings.
men's collection as well, and
Yeah, I've evolved to joggers. I'm actually wearing joggers right now, which in essence is just tight fitting sweatpants with
love tight fitting
pockets. Yeah.
sweatpants.
Yes. And so they're so comfortable. I haven't taken them off on I'll admit. And since I live off the grid and don't see many people, I don't have to shower that often. So I probably due to change my joggers, but I probably won't till tomorrow. So,
So do you guys actually?
yeah.
Let's get into that then. We'll
Okay.
roll right into it. They've got really cool
All right.
patterns. People go
Yeah.
check them out. They're cool.
Yeah.
We could talk about them all
Thanks.
day, but there's so much other stuff I want to learn. So
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
so do you have like? Let's talk about your off-grid home. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
We did a little bit before,
Yeah.
but let's get into it.
Yeah.
Like, how did it
Okay.
evolve? How did it start? What are you learning along the way? That's like, oh my
Oh.
gosh, we need this. We should have done this.
Oh my gosh, so much. And I never thought I would care about the things I care about now, and I could care less about so much stuff I used to care about. Um, One, first I could say is an unlimited hot shower is just means a lot to me. Like when I get to go home or enjoy some water prana, it's just, oh, I just am so appreciative towards that. So that being said, we haul our water. We fill up water jugs and big, wonderful, huge gallons and gallons of them, and have a little pump and fill up our water. Or we could have it hauled in more, but we just haul it ourselves. And so that one keeps us in shape and also aware of our water usage. And then that goes into Cody would be so much better at this. I'm really bad with the technical part of stuff. Like after you flush the toilet and stuff, it goes into
Septic.
septic. Thank you. And that has to get pumped every so often. And those guys have us on pretty much a first name basis because we don't have like a huge septic since it's a tiny house. So yeah, they come about twice a year. And the power, we don't have a power bill because everything is pretty much run off of the solar panels, which Cody, wired up himself. He's have I mentioned he's amazing? But anyways, yes, he did all the solar panel stuff, all the wiring in the house, built the whole house himself. And then in the winter, when things get less than sunny, or say I need to really use a lot of power for work or my business, we will start up the generator and maybe run it for an hour or two, and that will, charge the batteries for probably a good another 24 to 36 hours, depending on how much consumption that I pretty much just have to use for the business. Something I really miss about living off the grid is having my own washing machine.
Mm.
That man, I really miss being able to wash clothes as I want to, but at the same time, it's just something you learn to do, and you
So do you have
yeah.
like a hand washing machine, or are you using the
Yeah,
old
we
school
have
washboard with like the tub and the wringer?
both actually, but no,
Okay. That's cool. I've got
it
some.
depends
I
on
don't
how it
use them.
goes.
I've got some hanging on the wall in my laundry room, but I don't actually use them.
You
But
have to use it. Antique stores. We actually go to antique stores to buy things we actually use. So,
that's
um,
awesome.
yeah, it's
So,
always like let's go to the antique store see what they got. So anything cast iron that's
oh,
worth
I love
anything
cast
usually
iron.
comes home with us.
That's pretty much
So,
all we cook on is
yeah,
cast iron. Or
yeah,
or she has like ceramic coated like cast iron. But
right, right.
other than that, that's pretty much what we use. I love it. My buddy used to own an antique store, so that's like where I got all my cool stuff from. You know,
Oh,
yeah. So he'd
lucky.
always tell me, and I'd talk to him, and be like, "Hey, you got any? Yeah, come on down, take a pic."
That's
And he was so
cool.
cool. Like, I half the time he wouldn't even take my money, but I feel bad for that because what cool stuff do I have to give him in return? But you know,
Right. Well, your presence alone is a gift.
oh,
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Some people may disagree, but
He does.
but so
So,
yeah, so you use
yeah.
hand washing tools, huh?
Yeah, we do. And my what is it, like if I want to say make cookies or something, my little thing to beat everything with is a hand tool as well that I had
Hand
to get
mixer.
from,
Yeah,
yeah, hand
crank.
mixer
They
from.
make
I was
drills
so
like that
excited
too.
when I found that. They do. Yes, yes. So, um that was, yeah, that's part of it.
That's
One of
cool.
the things I guess we learned the most is some things that are, say, propane or gas used, or they say they can be used off the grid. If there's anything electrical in them, it's a lie. It will just still suck your power. So we had an oven that was hooked up to our propane and everything, but I actually had to run the generator to start it so then I could just get the like it to go to power.
Mm.
And that was so annoying. So I was so glad when we got our 100% off-grid propane oven, and now we're actually eating so
Oh,
much
well,
better.
that's good.
So
So
so yeah, so
no wood
propane
burning,
utilities are amazing.
no wood burning
We
stove yet.
can't, no wood burning stove. We live off grid. We have radiant heat and it's so warm.
That's what I was getting. So how come you don't have
Yeah.
unlimited hot water shower if you've got radiant heat?
Well, it's just because of the water itself. So if there was like tons and tons of water, if we were, say, hooked up to a lot more water, we could have. I mean, I have a nice hot shower, right? But I don't have like long hot showers. So to me,
Mm.
a long hot shower is probably like 10 minutes. To you, some people on the grid, or when my past live, I would say a long hot shower was probably 20 minutes and it
Oh
was
my,
super
yeah.
steamy and stuff like that, right? Now, so yeah, like we have hot water on demand. That part is super easy, and we don't have to think a lot about that. Cody was very thought about that, so that was good. It's just the hauling the water part.
So the
So
wood burner's
sometimes,
outside.
yeah,
That's cool
the
though.
wood
Yeah.
burners outside. Yeah.
Well, it is. Yeah.
No,
With the
yeah.
tubes running to the house,
The
right?
two.
With the yeah a pump.
Well, I'm a little confused. Hold on. What do you say?
So you have a wood burner outside with the.
No,
How do you
no,
heat the
sorry. We
water then?
we have no wood heat at all due to insurance purposes. So we couldn't get house insurance if we had a wood burning stove, or it was just crazy expensive.
No, not a wood
So
burning. No, I'm saying like the
so
the shed outside is what
oh,
does the wood, right? And it burns it and heats the water, and the hot radiant heat goes into the house.
mhm. It's all like electrical radiant heat. Like if you were going to
Oh,
someone else's normal house and you're like, you have radiant heat, it's all like that. So if we were hooked up to the grid, you would have no idea we actually lived off the grid.
I gotcha. Okay, because my buddy's
Yeah.
dad sells wood burning sheds that
Okay.
you throw the
Yeah.
logs in, and it
Right.
burns, and it has like a boiler built into the shed, and then it's
Yeah.
got
Yep.
water lines that go into the house.
Right.
So then you're
Right.
pumping the hot water into the house. That's what I thought you were talking about. So it's something
Okay.
completely different. That's cool.
Right. Yep.
So it's like
Yeah.
an
This is
electro boiler.
right. It's, yeah, on demand. The Takagi. Man, I know that thing's name because I'm used to calling Cody being like, I don't know how to turn on the Takagi, but I'm still saying it probably wrong. But I got it figured out now. I know how to run that sucker.
That's
But
good. That's cool.
yeah, it just makes it on demand as you want it. So
So, just kind of curious, like, what kind of foraging do you do?
ooh, all kinds of foraging, especially, well, honestly, it depends on the time of year because, as you know, different things come up at different times. So, Morel mushrooms are obviously a favorite, and everyone loves those delicious
Everybody
little
loves them.
treats.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Recently, I foraged some eat cap mushrooms and we fried them up, and I actually saved half of them and am making ink. So I will cut up a feather and have my own little
Quill
old
pen.
school
Yeah.
handwriting like ink situation going on. So
Cool.
some things, if you forage, you don't necessarily have to eat them. So it's kind of whatever's around. I like to forage rose hips and roses, but right now rose hips are around, so you can make jams and jellies and yummy things like that. If I was a bird, I'd be getting way more pine nuts, but they're kind of tricky to get to. So So yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
But so like, how'd you learn
Yeah.
all the things? Like,
Um,
how did what you could eat
oh,
and couldn't eat? Like, you just
um, my grandma, actually, my grandma taught me a lot of what I know in the woods in regards to being a forager and knowing plants and flowers. And then that interest it just kept growing. So I have so many books and I've read so many. I have probably every identification app you can think of.
I don't
Just,
trust those
just,
apps at all.
oh
I'm gonna be
no,
honest.
never,
There is so
never
many
do.
times I've taken a picture of something simple just to like test it to see,
Right.
and it is
Exactly.
so far off, and I'm like,
So
yeah,
far off.
hopefully somebody doesn't rely on that to save their life or
Yeah.
something.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's why you have to have every single one there is, because you have to cross-reference
Yeah.
everything.
They'll end up like
So,
that kid on the bus up in Alaska.
yeah, you don't want to end up like that. No, no, no. And then, I mean, just a good community. I get to hang out with a lot of old timers. I am so fortunate to have a great, family and people who know what I'm up to. And if I send them a photo and ask them what this is, they know to, let me know because I'm going to be curious. And if, you know, they don't
Yes,
know, I'm going to tell them. So,
that is one thing. Like this
yeah,
podcast has totally, made it more accessible from the people I've talked to and kind of some of them developed a relationship with and just texting, back and forth and like, hey, I found this. I think it's this. Am I right? Am
right,
I wrong? And they're like,
right,
okay, well, look for these features. Does it have this or does it
right.
have this?
Yeah,
Oh, it has that.
right.
Okay. Well, what do you think? Do you think, are you 100% sure? Well, now I'm not,
Exactly. Right.
But, it's really cool. I've gotten a lot of help, especially like Abby Artemisia. I've messaged her so many times. I feel bad, like
Oh,
asking
no,
her,
I bet.
you know.
Well, but it's good and it helps everybody learn.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's
Yeah.
fun. So,
We,
what kind of hunting have you been doing this year? You
ooh,
mentioned that earlier, but we never really got
okay.
into it yet.
Well, I've been elk hunting on public land. So, wow, it's been so much fun and so exciting. I've had an amazing year. Such a lucky year. I haven't shot anything, no elk yet, but it's been so great. Had so many close encounters and have had to do some blood trailing, so it's been just a great hunting season and hunting different areas, learning. Well, I mean, they're my same spots, but depending on the regs, I can only hunt a cow here or hunt a bull here or a spike here. So it's been really important to know the regs this year, especially with just public land hunting because it's just the borders are just so you have to know where everything's at and you have to do everything legally and it's tricky if you don't know the regs.
So, do you have like any other plans this year besides elk hunting, or what are you
Oh
planning
yeah.
on?
Yep. So archery ends really soon here, which is very sad. And I will keep public hunting whitetail with my trad bow on public land here in Alberton, but then at some point I will venture over to my parents' folks' place, which they have a nice little um hunting ranch. I wouldn't call it a hunting ranch. It's, 1,200 acres where deer run around on. And so um, we put up a bunch of tree stands and get after it on the whitetails there. And I love to rattle them in. It's just so addicting. And so I will be traditional bow hunting for them as well.
You're kind of one of the only, I'm not going to say Westie, but Westie that I've talked to that actually hunts whitetails. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I don't understand it. Like, not that
That's
many.
because that's because they all switched to rifles, I guess. I don't know. That was
Yeah,
so mean. That was such a dig. That was so mean.
but
They
for
haven't
real.
experienced it. What if they had experienced it? Yeah,
Yeah,
that would that would be yeah. So it's yeah. I know.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Like, I just find that strange that there's so many people that live out west that they'll elk hunt, they'll mule deer hunt, they will antelope hunt, but they
Yeah.
don't ever chase a whitetail. And I mean, I haven't been out west a whole lot, But
Right.
in my travels out west, I've seen quite a few whitetails, and I'm like, man, they're all over.
Oh
Nobody
yeah,
hunts these things. This is crazy.
they're everywhere.
So yeah,
um, well, and I mean, it depends on the type of hunter the person is. Mule deer generally have bigger horns, so whitetails aren't picked on as much. And I mean, it depends. Like, I think whitetail tastes way better, so I would way rather stick an arrow in a whitetail than in a mule deer. So it depends on what you're after. And then, there's a lot of people who do start rifle hunting and get to go after elk as well. And that changes, how the elk are behaving on public lands. And so then, like, say I'm traditional bow hunting elk still on public land while everyone else is rifle hunting, then I have to relearn what the critters are
so
doing.
you don't pick
Well,
up a rifle at all,
no, nope, not unless it comes down to the very, very end and I have not filled the tag.
or the freezer?
And yep, it comes to the freezer. I'll circle a date on the calendar, or I'll make a promise to Cody and my family that if I don't get something by a certain day, that I'll switch to the boomstick. And I've had to do that before, and I don't like it. But but I've also gotten my whitetail on the last day of the season. So just
It's kind of blasphemous in the Robertson household.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, it's right. Well, they know, I mean, meat's important, and we all of us as a family live off of each other's harvest. So it's it's important, but we do pretty good jobs getting stuff with our bows. So we don't starve.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So
So
yeah.
it's been fun talking to you and learning all about you and your business and kind of the whole homesteading thing too. You want to, before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find you and find your company and all the cool things and your family's business as well?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first, my family's business, their traditional archery equipment is Robertson Stick Bow. That's stykbow.com, and you can check out all of Dad's handmade bows. They're beautiful, made out of exotic woods. And then my business is Pure Venatic, and that's Pure, and then Venatic VENTAIC.com. And you know what? I should probably make a promo code so you can all get a discount, right? So
That would be cool.
I'll make a promo code. Well, what should we make it?
PC 2020?
PC? All right, PC 2020. When we're done with this, I'll make the code PC 2020 and we'll give you guys 20% off at purevenatic.com.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Luke.
And then, so that's that. And then, like, if they want to find you on social media, how can they find you?
Okay. Well, right now you should look for Pure Venatic. I have been told I have to start like diverging between my traditional archery life and my lifestyle brand, and so, which is kind of weird, but at the same time, that's what I have to do. So if you want to follow me, crazy traditional archery woman, you can just look up Yana Robertson, and I'm sure you'll find me around there somewhere. And if you want to look up the clothing brand, that's Pure Venatic. Either way, I feel like it's all going to overlap. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you just find me around. Just look for me, right? I'll
Okay.
out there. I'll find you.
All right. So it's been fun. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And
Right.
it was good talking to you.
It was good talking to you. Thank you so much for having me, Luke.
Okay.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.